And for more on the COVID developments, I'm joined now by Dr. Georges Benjamin. He's the Executive Director of the American Public Health Association. Georges, thanks so much for coming in. Firstly, if you could start by telling us a little bit more about this hybrid variant. How does it differ from past variants, and how severe can it be if you're infected with it?
You know, it's not more lethal, but it certainly is a lot more infectious. And because it's a lot more infectious, for people who do get infected and aren't fully protected, they're much more likely to get very sick. And that's why you do see a larger number of people getting really sick and dying. But those are mostly people who are unvaccinated or people whose vaccination status has significantly diminished.
So a fairly similar outlook in terms of what we saw with Omicron, would you say?
Oh, very much like Omicron. And in many cases, it is replacing Omicron, again, for those people who have not really been exposed to Omicron yet.
Now, the WHO sounded the alarm on the new variant as it spread through Europe. We just heard from our reporter there. He said that 1/4 of the population in the US has got it. Is this a sign of a surge that we saw similar to that just before Christmas time? Is it something that we need to sort of brace ourselves for?
Well, look, we don't anticipate that it'll look anything like Omicron in terms of the magnitude. But, you know, we're trying to make a cautious transition back to near normality. And so people need to be concerned if they're not fully vaccinated. So we encourage everyone to get their vaccinations, at least the primary series and at least that first booster. And then if you have diseases like autoimmune diseases or you have chronic diseases that require you to get that fourth dose, go ahead and get that if recommended by your healthcare provider.
So let's talk about that fourth dose. Booster shots are being prepped to be administered into the population. How essential will it be to have yet another vaccine to fight against these various viruses and various variants? I mean, will it protect against another variant that might pop up in the future? And how should we prepare ourselves in terms of inoculation moving forward as we try and get a grasp of this pandemic in our everyday lives?
We really do need to figure out at what periodicity we want to be vaccinated. You know, is this going to be like a flu shot where you get every year? So I'm hoping that our health authorities will figure that out in the next couple weeks. But I think the big issue here is whether or not we ought to start working on a second generation vaccine in case we get a big change in the viral character.
And it's interesting to think about how this pandemic has shifted the way that we think and feel about public health, about the healthcare system in general. How do you think this pandemic has changed the healthcare system, particularly in the United States? And has people's approach to community and global health changed, do you think?
Well, I think it's raised to everyone's consciousness the extraordinary importance of public health, not just to the health of a society, but also to its economic well-being.